Hey everybody, happy Friday. I think it's November the 3rd, 2017. I'm going to do something a little bit different today. This week was a crazy week. It's going to be a crazy next couple months. I've had so many things go on this week. I think normally what I do is when I do something like this, I'll write a script or I'll write me some notes or something to just keep me focused, because if I get to rambling, then I tend to just chase rabbit trails and go all over the place. And so I need something to kind of keep me focused. Well, initially it was going to be about the lofting at the U.S. Open, because it was crazy and there was all kinds of stuff that happened with that. And I thought, okay, well, this is basically going to write itself, and we'll just talk about this. But over the next couple days after the whole thing happened and through qualifying, everybody just beat it into the ground, and everybody was saying the same things, and everybody was on the same wavelength. And I thought by the time I get to Friday, there's not going to be any point. So the topic for today is going to be about the U.S. Open. I'm just gonna hit some. So there's several points I still want to make out of it that I don't think that got covered very well. But first of all, today is the ordering date for the Daredevil Danger and All Out Show Off. So I got those ordered. Normally I get them within about a week to order them. So hopefully by next weekend I ought to be able to have some videos up. So there's that. The next couple weekends I've got the city tournament going on. The weekend after that I'm going to be in Tulsa for the Greater Tulsa Open. The weekend after that we have our big blowout sale, or what we kind of affectionately call Black Saturday, because it's the day after Black Friday at the pro shop here in town. That's always a really big deal and a really busy day. And then December I'm going to go to Minnesota for a couple weeks for a training class for my new job. And there's some bowling business stuff going on. Like I said, normally I write a script or kind of something to keep me focused here, some notes or something. But I wrote that, and then there was a lot of bowling business stuff that happened for me this week, and it was kind of a roller coaster. And so every time something happens, and I get a point or a talking point, some talking points or something I want to talk about. And so I wrote the one about the U.S. Open, the lofting, and it's just like, well, that's going to be old news by the time Friday comes around. And then I got another topic from kind of a high point in a bowling business discussion, and so I talked about that, and then it went right back the other way. And so all of a sudden I'm pissed and I want to talk about something, and then the next day it goes right back up. And so this week's just been all over the place. It's just, and then once we get in another couple weeks in November here, I'm going to be able to order the High Road Nano and the Sonic. And so there's lots of videos, there's lots of stuff to talk about, there's lots of stuff to do, and it's just going to be a busy couple months. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk a little bit about the U.S. Open. Whatever's going to happen is going to happen, so just kind of hold on for the ride. It could be interesting, because it always is when I don't have a script to work with. So regarding the lofting at the U.S. Open, we're going to talk a little bit about that. Number one, there are going to be spoilers here, so if you have not seen that show and you do not want it spoiled for you, I am going to have spoilers, so you should probably shut this off right now. But as far as the lofting goes, there's a couple schools of thought. One is that, well, it's bowling. It's the same for everybody. The conditions broke down. Everybody was lofting by the time the double burn squad got there. And so it's kind of fair across the board. So it's one of those things, just shoe up and get it done. But on the other hand, not a whole lot of the field can just loft it like that. There were some guys. Now everybody got their turn on the fresh, on the burn, and the double burn. Even the dogs are pissed about the double burn, apparently. But what happened is you had some people that were actually getting injured, or when Rhino won, and then Marshall asked him, okay, so how are you going to celebrate? He's like, well, the World Series of Bowling starts in 2 days. I've got to go get ready for that, and then we'll think about celebrating after that. So you had people that were trying to loft. Some people's games just don't allow them for that. So there's a lot of people that got blocked out just as the day, as the day wore on. You had people that were withdrawing because they got injured. Then you had people that were withdrawing because they were either embarrassed and or injured, or you had people that wanted to prevent injury and or embarrassment because they had the World Series of Bowling coming up. And that's a lot of bowling that's going to happen all at the same time, and these people can't afford to have this one tournament or one set of this few blocks of qualifying ruin their entire World Series of Bowling. So it was actually to the point where it blocked some people out. It injured some people, and there were some withdrawals, and I think that's just bad for the event. Next, however, we're going to talk about the show. There was a lot of versatility, despite there being 3 lefties on the show, which kind of makes sense because the lefties, aside from having kind of their heads a little bit burnt by the righty traffic that was so deep, if they could get it past the heads, the lefty shot wasn't going to change too much because there's a lot less traffic over there. So the fact that 3 lefties made the show is just not surprising because of the whole transition issue. But there was some diversity on the show because the 3 lefties are fairly different. You got Buttriff that really gets on it with urethane. You got Fa that really gets on it with urethane, but he used some reactive during the week. And then Rhino, who really gets a lot out of what he does to the ball. He really has a pretty dynamic ball motion for... He doesn't really have a high rev rate. He doesn't really throw it very fast. He just gets the most out of what he does. And then you have Norm Duke that just likes to give the high hard one, and his rev rate it looks to me like it keeps decreasing and decreasing over time. He just kind of floats it right out there and is just laser accurate. And then you have West, Big West, that kind of gets on it. And so I thought that you did have a nice kind of diversity for the U.S. Open in terms of bowler style. Now what we're going to talk, most of what I'm going to talk about here is just how well Rhino bowled. I mean, you had the first game where Norm bowled a good game. He just got beat by Fa, and then the toughness of the U.S. Open showed up for the next couple matches. And then you have Rhino just not missing. I mean, not every shot was 100% perfect, but when you look about the scope and severity of the misses that he did have, it was so... His misses were so absolutely minimal that you can't, in all fairness, even call them misses, because there is a scope of something called standard deviation, which is just a fancy way to say what, the range of possible accuracy with something, because nothing is going to have 100% perfect accuracy all the time, and especially with humans, we're prone to making errors for one reason or another, and Rhino just didn't. He really got tapped a couple times, and the few tiny mistakes that he made were actually kind of big. Were kind of big at the pins, but man, he bowled so incredibly well that even when you get to that title match and you think, well, Buttriff led qualifying by 600 freaking pins, and you think, well, he's going to have to do exactly what he just did in his first match against Buttriff to even have any kind of a chance. Buttriff got he did make a couple mistakes. He did make a couple honest mistakes, and he really paid for him. But the bottom line is I think Rhino was going to win no matter what. He was so ridiculously good. And from knowing, I've known Rhino for a long time. We've been kind of more acquaintances because in one of my prior podcasts I said that I had bowled league with him once upon a time when he was living here in Topeka, and while he was going to KU in Lawrence. And so I got to know him a little bit, but obviously he was a lot better than I was, and everybody knew that once he got out of college he was going onto the tour. Everybody kind of knew what was going to happen because he's just talented. I mean, he's just that good. And so I got to watch firsthand exactly how good he was even 10 years ago. And so the mental toughness has always been something that Rhino's had. He's always had this, I mean, just like they said with his T-ball coach, he's just reminded him of a rhinoceros. I mean, he's always had that mental toughness to where he's just going to go out there and get after it. Sometimes he can be a little bit hurt by his aggressiveness, but if you just watched shot by shot, where no matter how well it was going, no matter how pumped he got after making a big shot, everything went back to quiet right before he made his next shot. He was prepared, he was focused, he took it slow, he rode his momentum. His performance was just one of the most impressive performances I've seen in that set of circumstances, especially because of how much it meant to him. I mean, you could tell that he could hardly contain himself the whole time, and I'm sitting there watching. I'm like, he's got to keep his composure. Like, he can't let this run away with him. And then especially when Buttriff had that big open in the middle of the game, and you felt you really felt that unless Rhino made a big mistake, made a big mistake or a couple big mistakes to give it back, you really felt that at that point that it was Rhino's tournament to lose. And when you want something that much and you put that much energy into it and you have that rough of a week, I mean, U.S. Open qualifying, the format is just brutal on everybody. And when you can come out of that, and when you want something that bad, and you have something that's basically right there in front of you, and it's yours to give up, it's hard when you don't have somebody pushing you constantly and making you think, I have to keep my foot on the gas. Continuing to push is way different from damage control. It's like when you have a couple football teams, and then you have them go into their prevent defense, and then the other team just marches all the way. They're preventing big plays, but they're not going to prevent the score because they just kind of dink and dime them the whole way down the field and score anyway. So it's one of those things where he had to keep the foot on the gas, but he couldn't keep it on the gas that hard. Like, he had to play a little bit more safely and still maintain that aggressiveness that basically won the thing for him. So if you haven't seen the telecast, I definitely urge you to go see that. It was very entertaining. It was very interesting, and it was just a really great performance by Rhino. I'm trying to remember what ball he started off with. I know that he bowled the second game with the lock. I can't remember off the top of my head which ball. I know it was the Sherlock. He started the first game with the Sherlock. He got tapped a couple times, and then when he started throwing the lock, he really got locked in. Hashtag pun intended. But it was a fantastic show. It was a great performance by Rhino. I'm really happy for him. He really wanted it, and he deserved it. So, I mean, based on his performance, that was one of the better performances that I've seen on a televised show, period, let alone a major, aside from, Francois was obviously very impressive last year too, but Rhino had a very solid performance. He deserved it, and now we'll see what happens with the World Series of Bowling, which I believe starts, this is Friday, so it either starts today or tomorrow. So if you're not subscribed to Extra Frame, they do have something that's kind of cool. They have 3-day passes, so even if you don't want to sign up for the month or sign up for the year or whatever else, if you just want to watch a little bit of it, they have a 3-day pass for like $4 or something like that. So that's a great way to get kind of your fill of something without buying in completely. But they've made some advances in the Extra Frame deal, so it's a lot more, it's a lot better quality. So if you're interested in that, definitely go check that out on extraframe.tv, I believe it is. Anyway, I think that's just going to do it for the podcast this week. I'm not going to... I don't have anything else to talk about. I don't want to sit here and ramble about anything. But like I said, Daredevil Danger and All Out Show Off are coming... I've got those orders. Those are on the way. So next weekend, I ought to have some stuff up for you. I'm excited about those two. Obviously, really excited about the High Road Nano, which I'll be able to order a couple weeks later. And then the Sonic, which is a couple weeks after that. Either way, it's going to be a really busy but really great end of the year. I'm definitely really looking forward to next year. But for now, thank you guys for watching. I appreciate it, and we will see you next Friday.